Dear fellow migrant workers, it is mob justice from wherever you are to come out and try to throw allegations, to jump over a company over your suffering in the hands of your boss. The moment you left your country, when you have signed a contract, for those of you that have signed the contracts, the moment you left your country through a channel that is recognized or licensed, through a channel that is observed by government, through a contract, the moment you left in such a way, it means there are some responsibility, not even some, 99%, the responsibilities of your contract are liable to your boss. The boss that is employing you is almost 99% responsible about you. We should get to change our minds, to shift our focus to that. That whenever we get challenged at work overseas, if we happen to have traveled through licensed means deliver you to a system where you can seek redress, where you have got a contract. It is expected that within that contract, there are terms and conditions. There are tortious liabilities, the liabilities of someone over you. Your boss has liabilities over you. Equally, you also have the conditions and terms you have to follow in order to fulfill your obligation to your boss. Therefore, when you leave Uganda and you go to Saudi Arabia, it is now between you and your boss, because there is a combined contract that is bringing you to terms. Try your level best to understand the terms of your contract. Try your level best to know your limits, to avoid common mistakes. Try your level best to avoid falling in traps of, falling a victim or falling in traps of your boss. Your bosses may subject you to different traps in constructive dismissal to enable you give up at heart. Do not fall a victim. Do not fall short of yourself. Not to stand up and learn to bargain for what is yours. Bottom line, what will help you to achieve that? The day you take time to ask your trainer, to ask your human rights defender about your contract, and you learn it, is the day you relieve yourself or save yourself out of brain enslavement, out of being enslaved by your boss or torture. You understand? It is mob justice, therefore, for you to think that when you have got issues between your boss and you, the blame must go to the company that is in Uganda. And therefore, you send your relatives to this company, they ambush it. They jump over it. They want to use force over this company that has not assisted you. Our common sense tells us that if this company indeed exported you rightly through the lawful means and delivered you to Saudi Arabia into a contract it promised you without a lie, this company has already played its role complete. And therefore, whoever comes out to claim that there shall be proxy liabilities, that person seems to be compromised. And if not so compromised, this person has intentions of making you suffer as a migrant worker, or even to confuse you more that you should not ask the right person justice who has victimized you, or you should not you should go to the person that has victimized you or that has propagated your victimism to give you the justice you deserve. This person will be confusing you, but in the right way. What should be done? Whenever you have cases at work overseas, in your contract, within your contract, be mindful that there are several ways of redress. There are several ways you can use to always ask for what you deserve without putting ropes, without having to contradict, without having to talk in contrary, playing a victim, without having to compromise, on some of your principles, on some of the commitments you have already committed. For instance, you have committed to keep a contract for 2 years. You cannot wake up out of the blue when you have a dispute between you and your boss, and then you just suggest, you come out and say, I want to go home. That's it. You cannot be a judge within your own case. It is very bad. Actually, this has exposed most of you to danger, that once you provoke your boss that way, even if your boss was wrong 100%, the blame will shift now, and it goes on you, who is seeking for a certain kind of choice that is really does not match, or really doesn't match into the situation or the status quo. This is where we have all gone wrong, that we feel we are going to anger displace our issues. Wherever we are being oppressed by our masters, we feel we are not going to blame the masters. This is what we've been termed or directed or guided to do, which is wrong, and we condemn it right from the training centers, right from your companies. That you cannot tell the master, the victimizer, to be the one to give you the redress. A redress must be there, and a worker should be that free to always seek it, rather than going in contradictions. It is very dangerous and does not help us all, be it you, the migrant worker, or the companies. You are trying to cast their names and play a character assassination game on social media. This message should reach the bloggers. It has come a time that most of the companies, the would-be or the previous traffickers, are converting to normal migration channels, which are safe, which we think that they can be safe and productive to the country. We cannot be now the stabbers of this kind of arrangement. Once these companies have charged known to traffickers, and they come close to seek a license such that they can embrace the queue and allow us to pass out through lawful means, isn't that an advantage we should all embrace? Where do we get that kind of misguided missile, or the misguidance? Where do we get it? Where do we get the misguidance? To begin thinking that the people who already gave us a way out should be liable for what those that are employing us are doing to us. Let's think meticulously about it. I had no job in Uganda. I went through a licensed company. This company organized me or prepared me for almost 3 to 2 months, or 2 to 3 months. I prepared my journey safely. I traveled. For sure, I reached Saudi Arabia, and I did not work in any other place apart from what was allocated to me. Be it I signed this contract or not, I have got a job. That is the question. That I cannot go back to claim and say the company ABCD lied to me. That it lied to me. When I reached Saudi Arabia, I did not receive the job. I am jobless. Then we shall put the question to the company. Why did you lie to this girl? As some of these companies have done. Some of them have duped even before you exit the country. They collect interview fees and swindle it. They close their premises. Most of the companies have not done that. We cannot put them on the roasting stick just because there are issues that are happening in Saudi Arabia, which Saudi Arabia has its jurisdiction and they do not have a jurisdiction to stay there, in which case they are not the very direct victimizers. We may blame that some of them connive in a syndicate, like in the deals of organ, but not so many. If I'm to say the organ case has been one or two, a few of them, not all, but we cannot cast all of these people that are organized to safely exit us and try to cast an image against them as if it is going to be the normal business, the order of the day. Therefore, everyone should sit down. Ask yourself a question. If I cannot avoid going to Saudi Arabia, how best? If at all I have seen many people suffering, bodies returning in caskets with so many questions, is it still your companies in Uganda that go to Saudi Arabia and kill you from Saudi Arabia, then they return to Uganda so that you blame them? Are we trying to portray a cowardice tendency in us as migrant workers, that when we go abroad, we do not stand our ground as workers to front the battle we were assigned to do or we committed to do? Do we want to tell the public that we are too much disoriented not to know exactly how to approach our own cases, our own issues? One will tell you we are powerless. Yes, we are powerless. How come that you become so strong in spreading noise? Are you not so powerful? Why don't you use that energy that you use in spreading the noise and concentrate it somewhere to bargain for a policy? A policy like social welfare, a policy like insurance, since you cannot rest your backs home. If you know that Saudi Arabia is torturing everyone, why don't you then organize yourself and assemble yourselves from home in a one body, in one administration, for purposes of order and then redress, if you must claim? Are we not exposing ourselves more, including the victims that come out to say, I am suffering, I am here, I am suffering? The more we get to expose these victims, the more they get to be mistreated by the victimizers. We should therefore restrain ourselves. The companies, I mean, both the companies and the workers, the recruiters and the workers, we should restrain ourselves. And for the recruiters, they always say, you know, omutitizi, abonya bantu be. How much have you groomed the people you are sending in this battlefield in Saudi Arabia? Do not lie to them. Stop lying to them. It is not easy to work in these countries. Therefore, be open. Be open to these Ugandans you are sending. Not it be only Ugandans, but any other father, be it Burundi, Ethiopia, Kenya. Be open to these nationals you are sending to Saudi Arabia, that they have not gone there to sleep. They have gone there to work. So indeed, they must be alert on when their rights can be encroached on. And they should know how to assertively stand and bargain. These workers from Africa, as African Union recommends, they should leave their countries when they are already associated into their social welfare associations or their social welfare administrations, if you want to attach them as agencies in Saudi Arabia. Have you tried to do that? Omutitiza abonya bantu be. Are you trying to say you are the ones sending these cowards to Saudi Arabia when you know exactly that what is happening there is not easy? Even you yourselves, within your companies and your capacities, you cannot go there and work or do the works these girls and boys do. Therefore, we should give them a chance as workers whom we send at the front line to always begin, because they physically see, they physically take a chance to take the experience. To the migrant workers, omutitizi abonya bantu be. Obutitizi bwo bwe bukuletedde family y'okubanga olwaleero eziika omulambo. Yes, you tell me kakati ate abaafa baali batiitira butitizi. Sometimes yes, sometimes not. Others have been neglected. It is true. But why have they been neglected? Because we are also disorganized. That if the cowards had a choice to be bargained for, that if the cowards had an organized backup, how will they continue suffering? If the cowards had an organized counseling system, the ongoing guidance and counseling that supports them, that awakens them, that guides them towards the wrong they may yet to commit, how will they continue to suffer? But because we have decided to wait, to go active, but not proactive, therefore we keep spreading the noise of this one has suffered, please mumuyambe, ono mumuyambe, help this one is suffering, the other one is suffering. We are now becoming incident reporters instead of becoming bargainers, collective bargainers for a common cause, for a common goal, because we know we cannot all avoid it. Some people will not speak the truth to you, the truth I'm speaking right now, because they feel they cannot avoid, eating in the compromise. They cannot avoid pretending to play a fool, to play stupidity. And they continue fooling you, sympathizing with you to show that, yes, whatever that is taking place is maybe someone's wish, someone's whatever, luck or whatever. Others wish you to suffer the more. I know there are those who wish to do that, especially the company directors who are not interested in the unity of migrant workers. These are people who are interested in your suffering. When they see you scattered, divided, being taken advantage of anyone, they will come out and tell you, these girls are free. They are free to do whatever they want. But the next day you hear the same directors complaining, abana balekana nnyo. These workers are, they are too much. Until it lands all on their own companies. When they have got a worst case, you see them panicking. How long is this going to stay? How long are you going to tolerate workers or any person, bloggers, idlers from social media coming to ambush your companies? That's why we are coming out today as a voice strongly to condemn the small cliques and groups of migrant workers or other purported workers, in which some of them have never stepped there. They have never stepped out of this country, but they may purport to be. These are the people involved in the ambushing of companies, even without permission, without, a clear way in. There is no problem when you write to these companies. There is no problem when you invite them by a call. There's no problem. But stop ambushing them. Some of you have moved yourselves to almost jump into their courtyards. You want to take yourself as a police. That is J. Hello. It is J. It is anger displacement. Sometimes it is not these companies that are doing the mess you've heard of about your colleagues in Saudi Arabia. And the delay in them not to help is already systematic, and everyone knows that, which we must all join efforts together with them, the companies, the trainers, and the workers, and call to the end to this delay, be it in deployment, be it in rescue of workers. And we all advocate for a common cause which will eliminate these atrocities, which will put an end to the suffering of a Ugandan, mainly in Saudi Arabia, where we currently have an agreement. Until that is done, do not expect to do any different thing that is so unique. Therefore, we should put our houses to order. That the recruiters organize themselves to do the right thing, as they have left human trafficking, and they chose to be organized. There is no reason for why you should be separated. There's no reason for why you should work in clusters. For what? You are all representing the same interests. Do you want to say that some of you are representing traffickers and others are representing issues of safe labor? Are you deploying in different countries? You are all deploying in Saudi Arabia. And most of you are dealing in maids. Most of you, when you look at the internal agreement between the counterparts, you are all taking the maid slot. You are not taking in any other slots, apart from a few. which means you are serving the same interest. You are receiving the same complaints. You cannot be there to lie to yourself that I will micromanage. I will micromanage my own girls. I will micromanage my own girls. There are those mistresses and madams who own companies. They have that tendency. I will see how I will micromanage my girls, my girls, my girls. And some many directors, my girls. They become your girls, right? They are your girls. But after exposing them to the market, don't they get spoiled? Little do you know, before they become your girls and you end them in Saudi Arabia, they will begin to join other cliques whom you have not put to order. So they will begin infecting them. I know some of you have developed headaches over this. We cannot keep reminding you that order must occur by yesterday. We cannot, because you know it deserves simply to save your image, the image of our country, and the lives of Ugandans, because most of them are actually suffering because of a mislead. Others are in panic because of what is being spread around. That is not true. We who are following meticulously, we have realized there are those true stories and those which are concocted only for people, some people, to fetch a following. And you have left this to thrive simply because you feel you cannot talk to so-and-so, you cannot work with so-and-so. That individualism, the individualism in you as big people, as investors. I have never seen an investor who chooses to sideline. In a private sector, you sideline people. These are customers. You cannot say, I work with so and I don't work with so. You better run an open market. However, since you've chosen your class, your brand, and your name, you ought to protect it. You don't leave it for anyone to take advantage. What is our brand? What is our brand as Ugandans? As Ugandan migrant workers, as Ugandan safe labor promoters, what is our brand? Our brand is that cream, the standard people whom we have trained, not anyone who walk out of the blue from Masaka and boarded to Oman or Dubai. That's not the case. Our brand that we must protect is that category of Ugandans that are cleared by the Ministry of Gender. That is the brand we have. How do we make it better? How do we improve it? How do we make it standard? How do we make it attractive? And if I'm to ask you, who of you has thought about the incentives? Have we incentivized this kind of brand? Is it that attractive? Of what advantage does it have over others? What example, what difference does someone going through a company is from that who has been trafficked by an agent? What is the difference? There is no difference. For today, if I'm to ask you, there is no difference. For someone who goes through a company and that one who goes through an agent just being trafficked, they have got no difference. One may say this man is funny. Yes, you are more or less traffickers. That's why you have even left the workers, the category of workers you are exporting to mix up, that you cannot identify who was trafficked and who is not ours, just by mere lack of leadership and governance among these workers. By now, they would be having a trace point, a checkpoint, where you check their excesses, their behavior, where you macro manage them, because they have got no difference. They have all suffered the same way. They are serving into the same houses of victimizers. There's nothing new. So this category is almost being trafficked in a system, because the end is the same. The end is the same. They end almost complaining, having no point of redress. Does a trafficked girl have a point of redress? No. They end up complaining, some of them footing their return tickets. Do trafficked people have assurance on return tickets? No. They end up complaining, I am sick, I have got no medical treatment. Do the trafficked people have an assurance over medical treatment? No. They end up complaining, I have been denied salary. They have not paid me, and I have no one to help me. Have the trafficked people in Dubai have any assurance for a salary? No. They end up running away, looking for services or for how they can get better pay, better wages. You understand? Is that any different from the trafficked people in Dubai who are moving up and down for a better paying job, dropping one from the other? There's no difference. The Ugandans in Saudi Arabia have been deported on several occasions on daily basis. All the deportation centers are filled up to capacity. Something very strange. And it's not so common among the trafficked. And that's why the trafficked have an advantage. That yes, some of them can land in these countries by unlawful means, but still they may survive to an extent of even having documents and never be deported, as those you expose in Saudi Arabia and they end up being deported to Uganda without having any other chance given to them or any point of redress. On top of exploitation, that we expose them during the time of seeking support for rescue. They are exposed to exploitation done within Sakan shelters, the Sakan lodges. There is exploitation that has been inculcated there, put in Saudi Arabia, organized by the Saudi government. Nobody has ever talked about that. You tell me how. How are they exploited? If you know someone has gone through a system with a contract, why don't you provide mechanisms of ironing out issues within these contracts than you preparing a place where you're going to put all the failed people, all the obstructed people within contracts, and then you begin charging them per head almost 150,000 Ugandan shillings. Which 150,000? These Ugandan heads, the Ugandan people or these other nationals of other countries whom you are packing in these countries cannot, in this Saudi Sakan, they cannot be, that very money cannot be used, in the form of their social welfare protection as a fund to always cover them in times of incidences as such that even if they get issues at work, if it means coming back home, they have got a soft landing. They have got a backup. They have got an assurance of a ticket. And they are not delayed or they do not have to go through a long queue of being deported. Why do we encourage deportations over workers that have gotten disputes within their bosses' houses? If the dispute has come and it is failing to be resolved, let workers be free to exit the country without being deported. This is where you are turning the whole incident or the whole business of labor export into being worse even than the human trafficking, because you have got no difference. Many Ugandans have been deported. As we condemn the Ugandans from Mobu just firing you for why they are suffering, because you are not the ones torturing them, but whatever you have exposed them to shifts the blame to you. You have failed to sit down as mature people, leaders of these associations, be it recruiters, the heads of the ministry, to dialogue and agree on the way forward. You get to share the cake. A cake is a cake. You cannot sideline and say these ones will eat the bigger side or the bigger share and the other one will eat the smaller one. A cake is a cake. Everyone would yearn to have a share, and that's how you serve it. It is always very small, but this cake can be served, and everyone, you find that hundreds of people attending this party, attending this kind of party have all shared at least a piece of this cake. How do we involve all the parties, all the players into this? And how do we make our cake that, revitalized? How do we make it that very sweet and nice to eat? Everyone should suggest at least an ingredient that can be added just to please their appetite. So it will depend upon the one who is responsible, who is the administrator, to mix and see what kind of cake shall we all share, regardless of our religion, regardless of our cultural backgrounds, regardless of our taboos. But once we go to this party and attend this party, whoever will line up for a cake will eat that cake without saying, this is a haram, you have made me eat pork, you have made me drink alcohol within this cake. That means the person who is preparing this cake will prepare a cake knowing that even if he adds a minimum or a certain levels of alcohol, it will be that will not affect the Muslims. Or even not adding it at all, to fit all. He will not include the pork in order to not to eliminate the Protestants or other people who may not eat it, even the Muslims. So you cannot come out and serve a labor export cake, which is full of pork, it is full of wine, and you want to invite Muslims to share the same cake. Once the rumor monger moves around that the mix of this cake is adding in some wine for people to get confused, I don't think they will attend your party. This is when they will begin decampaigning the cake. Don't be surprised why the workers are ambushing and trying to do a mob justice on your businesses in Uganda, because the way you mix the cake does segregate them. They are known to be served over the same cake. They are to served on the sideline. What if you think about it and you change your approach? We would wish to protect your channels because they are the only safest channels we have. At least 50% safe, but almost going below the pass mark if you don't be careful. 50% safe, but the 50% safe, does not mind about other people's, welfare, does not about the people who are supposed to come and share the cake, how they will sit, how they will line up, how they will be, because you can easily give a cake to a few and you think you have given all. You must also be sure to know which party are you serving at what time so that they don't repeat or incidences repeating for you to lose this cake within the smaller circles. That means everyone must serve it. I think I've given you a pictorial view. I mean a pictorial kind of explanation for you to understand what is in our heart. What do we think? What do we feel it should look like as workers? Have you listened as recruiters? As we condemn migrant workers from mob justifying you, from jumping over you, anger displacing, whatever that is happening within their bosses' jurisdictions, where they have jurisdiction, and they fail to use it. We are only saying, please, let's empower the migrant workers. One, through incentivizing their works. I mean, their program. Let's incentivize the program of migrant recruitment through recruitment agencies, through licensed agencies. How incentive it is. I mean, how much attractive it is. How much does it give these workers better than the other? How? Are the workers catered for really different from the trafficked? Before we blame the workers for always calling the wrong people for assistance? Because we have left the field even of seeking redress to any fool, to welcome, to receive. They have got no one responsible. Ugandan migrant workers have got no leader. I mean, of that category. Not everyone. There is a category which is separate from those who are trafficked. That category has got no leadership, which has to be embraced by yesterday. For purposes of order, for purposes of reporting, for purposes of follow-up, professionally, to follow up the issues that happen among these human beings, not objects. We should not assume that these Ugandans that are deported or exported to Saudi Arabia do not have blood. These are human beings. They therefore have all the rights of human beings, which are inalienable, that we should always think about or even have to give them. We cannot be there, therefore, to wait until they suffer and then we run to rescue. Our approach should be that proactive, in form of prevention, better training, teaching the reality. Think about the mindset of these people because commonly it is the mindset that affects most of the cases. 99% we have received are because of a poor mindset. People have got no good reason on over their cases. They have got no way to manage their issues. They have been misled. They have been fixed in minds to leave Uganda, and they begin reacting according to how they were set from Uganda, even when situations dictate otherwise. There's an element of counseling and guidance missing within the period that these people stay within at work. Some of them need to be reignited. Others need someone to talk to. They have not got one. Some of you, in a flowery expression, you want to tell everyone how you have coordinators, how you have supervisors in Saudi Arabia, but how many of you can afford these supervisors? And those supervisors, are they having any tooth, or they are toothless? Who pays the supervisors? We have always asked you this. You don't answer it, and you continue saying you have supervisors. Who pays the supervisors? That if these supervisors are paid by the very people whom they defend, that means they will be in the capacity to defend their interests, the interests of workers. But is that been done? Or there would be money to pay these supervisors has now been prepared to be paid in a second. You will say you're not the ones who pay second money. It is the Saudi office to pay. Do you think they pay it out of the blue or by default that it doesn't pay them? They also don't wish to have losses. That's why they end up torturing our own. They rather beat it, starve it, because it has failed, it has cost them a loss. A lot of money being spent at Sakan because of this girl who did not listen to their orders, who did not stay there to wait for the tortures to continue happening. That's where we are. And I do not think you also wish the same, that girls should stay even when they are suffering and they do not have anywhere to report. It's not like that. If you are already parents, the recruitment companies and the Ministry of Gender. Therefore, if you don't wish so, we also don't think you are the right people to be on the ground when you don't have jurisdiction, especially the companies. We also don't think that you are the right people to be in issues or to be questioned about the issues of Ugandans who are suffering in Saudi Arabia. Bottom line, number one, the people to ask, the people whom these circles of workers have approached are the fellow workers, where you hear noise. Most times cases have been actually diverted and first fronted to fellow workers, first whispered to fellow workers than the company that recruited. This is where the anger of displacement, the anger displacement arises. When these girls realize they have reported to wrong people who eventually don't know what to do, don't know this industry, they will tell them, please ambush the company that took you. Ask it why you are suffering in Saudi Arabia. As if this company this company took you, then after reaching Saudi Arabia, it begins to work for you. And then even when suffering comes, then it will be to blame because it is the one now torturing you. That's not it. In my common sense, I don't think that is right. Something must be done to organize ourselves, to put the house in order. There is a mess we do right from our house, right from Uganda, right from our countries. And if we don't change that, we are yet to continue messing up ourselves, even spending more money into pretending to help, misguiding others, passing out the misguided missiles, ambushes, and mob justices over companies, character assassination, abuses over workers, and fraud will continue if we do not organize the house, to trace ourselves, to mark ourselves, to identify ourselves, such that we do not cause harm over each other. I want to spell out myself clearly and share this message. We are not against anyone who is ready to promote the safe labor migration. We stand in as a voice for migrant workers, and we are yet not to retaliate over this advocacy. We shall keep on calling stakeholders to order as well as fellow migrant workers who are also the third stake in this, to put their house to order. That if we do not embrace order, then justice will remain in vain. Lastly, I want to call upon my fellow migrant workers that as we get out of enslavement, as we advocate to get out of the captivity of being enslaved or taken as captives, as we advocate to get out of forceful deportation without redress to our civil liberties, to our civil claims, as we prepare to walk out of this kind of prison, we should leave our ambiguities, our anxieties, our anger within these premises, within these parameters. Otherwise, if we think we are going to get out of, out of the torture, out of the mislead, out of the confusion, out of being trafficked, when we are still angered, that our only point of redress is to anger, to abuse, to come out and anger this place, going overzealous, jumping over companies which are in Uganda that have never raped us, that have never touched our salary, that have never intended to deny our salary, that have never taken away our funds. And then we think we are going to continue blaming them, then we shall be stupid enough. And that's how we are going to lose it all. We shall not achieve anything if we are going to keep that. It is time now we get to change our mindset and begin to grow, begin to appreciate and grow our mindset to have a sight that the future belongs to us. The future of the industry belongs to us. Whatever that comes with it, we must learn to accommodate. And as we move further, without resting our backs to sit home, to avoid this kind of business, this kind of trek up and down, we should be ready to agree on certain terms, on certain things, and avoid common mistakes, mainly like that of today that have been emphasizing. Stop ambushing companies. Stop jumping over these companies. They do mistakes, but there's the right approach to go to them. You do not need to shade them as total traffickers because some of them have already took you in proper ways. They have already took you in proper ways. Therefore, when they seek for a second chance, or if there are issues you are aggrieved, give it to them. You should not spoil their brands, except when they fail they adamantly fail to listen to you. I do not have an objection. You are free to take to. There are some stubborn company directors who do not negotiate. They don't listen. They feel they know it all. They are the alphas and omega. They don't negotiate. They are as equal. They are the same as the bloggers. You find the company director's brain is like that of a blogger, a person who doesn't talk, who doesn't negotiate, that even if he's approached in a proper way, you find this director still arrogant. God saves you and you don't land in my hands, or you don't land into the migrant workers' hands, or your case doesn't land there. We shall be number one to teach you, because you don't know. These are human beings that may be calling for your support. Before they abuse you, listen to them. The more you ignore them first time, second time, third time, that's how they turn and run to social media and begin tarnishing the whole image of your company. That should not happen. It is mob justice. That's what we say. But to avoid that, let's learn and try to teach ourselves to be proactive. Let's encourage migrant workers to go for training. Let's support the training centers to be independent in what they are training and give them feedback over what they are training that is not right. Companies should be able to pay off these training centers rightly. Give them their share. It is just a small money, $100. Why don't you release that money? Why are you so selfish? You can give $200 to agents that bring these girls, which are going to do nothing. These agents just dupe the girl and lie to them. Some of them sleep on these girls and they bring them to you. Some of them bring them infected already. So they bring you these girls. Are they the ones to make sure they improve on the standards of these workers? Before you minimize a training center, Don't you receive all the money from Saudi Arabia, which you must pay these training centers? Pay them their $100 for them to feel to feel free, you know, from compromise, not to feel forced to give substandard information to the workers. That's how we are going to improve standards. That's how we are going to improve the salaries of our own. But we cannot continue from there if we are not proactive. Better standards, better training, inclusiveness, and also mind about the reintegration of Ugandan migrant workers, not only Ugandans, but even others, as it has been recommended by the African Union. We cannot afford to keep risking our own into where we go, where we know that they will suffer indeed, and anything can happen, but they do not have a backup. We only wait to panic and show off how we have contributed towards their burial. We have arranged, we have paid the money, the family, the what. You bury people's children like dogs. The next day we shall not defend you. Think about a program that is going to cover up these people. Let's stand together and all call for an insurance policy on the go, on the move. Let's all stand together and emphasize a social welfare package for our own. It will not come from your pockets. The workers can contribute to that. The very workers who are paying too much money in your companies, and then yet government lies to them that they should not pay. But when they come to you, you charge them because you want to save the same dollars and give them to the agents. So they pay this money off. You save your $1,000. These workers can have money even before they leave. They can't fail to bring anything because they are not slaves. If they are slaves, then you are free to take them without paying anything. But they have capacity to pay. Why don't you enable them within their numbers to have an emergency fund, to have a social welfare package that will always cater for their emergencies, than you always going in pools with the families when there are issues, especially in Saudi Arabia, that requires them to return, and then you cannot give them tickets. Some of them, when they return, they are dumped here. Even those that you have offered the tickets by force, you dump them here. You don't care about their training. You don't care about their health, their medical care, their treatment. Even those that have not yet suffered, when they return here, you have not minded about how they will be reintegrated. How are they benefiting, or how have they promoted, developed from one stage to the other? How are they hoped to thrive in an environment they have spent 2 years not living? And the hell breaks loose when numbers are continue to be deported and having nowhere to go again. 3 months down the road, they are in Uganda. Batagala azunga damu na damuli. Now Saudi Arabia told them they want to go back. Those who have finished at least the first contract, they don't want to go back because wamanya abagezi bajja kuddayo babufukire ekizibu. Nobody has advocated for that. Nobody is pressuring government up to speed to make sure that we attain another agreement, another contract. We can operationalize that of Dubai. We can choose to go low for the first time and avoid whatever they may be hardening. Make sure we take our own into a system. Who will be the beneficiary? It is you, the recruiters, first. Because for you, earn clean money straight as it is paid to you. Then next will be the workers who will benefit from the salaries. And as we prepare them to have a safer landing, a softer landing, home and away. From Migrant Workers' Voice, I want to wish you the best. Thank you.